I was younger. My friend invited me to experience the bustling city that was next to the sleepy town where she lived. Of course I said yes, that's my jam, I love that. So we bussed, we walked, we laughed, we snacked our way all over the place. It was amazing. We also climbed those stairs, the 200-year-old stairs to views of the city that were incredible. And when we got to the top, we took a selfie, but it was called a picture then? Yeah. I'm that age, totally. Only to then develop the film to see that the image was from the forehead up, but the view of the city was amazing. It truly was amazing. It was worth it. Our last stop was at a music studio. My friend had a cousin who was practicing there. We made our way over, and the security guard knew us that we were coming, and so he waved us in. Lovely man. The view, a panoramic view, it was an outdoor space. There were a couple of cars, a few bikes, and then a canopy of trees that provided much-needed shade for a handful of musicians who were drumming. The music was so sweet, and there is no shame in my dance game. My friend, she walked, but I danced my way over. It was sweet. I got introduced to her cousin. We met all of the other musicians, and one musician offered to take us on a tour. She said no because she was going to stay back and connect with her cousin, and I went on the tour with him. It started outside, instruments, amps, And then it led to an outbuilding, and that's where the music production happens. When we got to that building, the doorway was open, and there was a long, narrow hallway. Walls were painted white, teak-colored doors on either side. We walked and chatted, and then at one moment he opened a door, pushed me in, and closed it. My left shoulder was in a corner. To my right, there was a row of rolled-up carpets. My stomach tightened, the room was cramped. There was fractured light coming through closed shutters from a single high window. He put one hand above my head and the other on his hip, and he leaned in, whispering, first pretending to be familiar, charming. And then he changed, his words sharpened. I put my hands up to block and to create a distance between his body and mine. Thank goodness I did. He pushed in, and I pushed him away, and what I noticed is he was getting stronger. His words were sharper. He had completely changed. I kept my hands up to create a distance between his body and mine. Thank goodness I did. I could feel a fear rising inside me, so big, so deep beyond me. But there was something else. There was a clarity also rising. I started to listen not to him, but really listen to myself. I could feel my heart racing. I could hear it. But I could also hear something else. Footsteps. Someone was coming. He couldn't hear. I listened, and I timed it so perfectly. As soon as they were outside the door, I said, "Open the door, open the door." The door opened. I ran out, past her, down the hallway, through the doorway, grabbed my friend, and we left. That was harm prevention. I returned to myself. I listened. I listened so deeply that I could hear something that I couldn't before otherwise hear. That return to myself, that listening, allowed me in that moment to get to a state of harmony where I could prevent greater harm. I know. It doesn't always work out that way, does it? I know that. But in that moment, it did. I am so grateful. This return, that was an example of return. I thought, if he had been guided to return to himself again and again, he could have, just kind of done something that would never have created harm, right? Imagine if we lived in a place where we placed high value on return, where we get ourselves to the state of harmony so we are less likely to create harm. Can you imagine living in a world like that? You know what we would be giving out? Joy and joy and joy and joy and joy, right? Yeah. That's the compass that return gives us. Children are amazing reminders of this. Any parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, if you've been around toddlers, if you've ever been a toddler, okay, yeah, we're good, right? Yeah? Mm-hmm. You know this stage, this life stage, the mind stage, the toy, the snack, the blanket, everything belongs to them, okay? Everything. Their tiny shoulders up to their ears like little CEOs guarding their empire. You know how it goes, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. The thing about it, though, is that's one way that we learn boundaries, isn't it? So picture this. You're in a daycare, and you see little Johnny. It's always Johnny. Hey, it's always Johnny. Names have been changed for anonymity. I want you to know that. So little Johnny goes and grabs that toy from little Janie. Janie is screaming. She is so mad. She's so upset. Johnny takes off. He's crying. He is so angry. But you walk over to little Johnny and you crouch down and you say, Johnny, and I want you to do this with me. Take a breath. Look at your friend. Like, really look at your friend. Yeah, right? And then come back here. Johnny's whole body is listening. And you say, go on. Give it back. And so Johnny takes that toy, and he whips it, and he says, I don't want your stupid toy anyway, right? Mm-hmm. We all laugh because we've done that, haven't we, in some form, right? But we know that kind of return doesn't heal anything. So we go back to Johnny, we have him breathe again, and we say, Johnny, when you give your friend back her toy, you are also giving her back her smile. And he softens, right? So we do guide our children to return, don't we? We guide them to come back to themselves so that they can then return care to someone else again. So we're doing all right. We don't really grow out of the mind stage, though, do we? We just trade toys for fancier things like the credit for an idea. How about this one, the spotlight in a meeting? Ever seen that? Or, I have never done this. The armrest on an airplane? Okay, I busted. Yes, got it. That's why return matters. It stops us from taking from what was never ours to begin with. Mm-hmm. Fast forward a few decades. I'm in a meeting with a client. His team is presenting. His boss opens and shares an idea that was his. He'd been working on this for weeks. John, his name is, not Daycare John, again, not the actual name, right? But John is livid. I can see it. Jaw clenched, shoulders up to his ears. He's turning so red. And I'm looking at him. He's not looking, and then eventually he does. And he gives me that look like, okay. And so he's reminded of this practice that we've done in a one-on-one session. I'm going to invite you to do it with me. I want you to bring the pads of your fingertips to the pad of your thumb. I say to him in our session that this is an extension of your heart. I want you to imagine it being your heart. When you're angry, and I squeeze it like this super fast, I say when you're angry, irritated, when you're afraid, when you're frustrated, that is how your heart is beating. And it's like it's under attack, and I don't want any heart attacks in here, right? And so I just now want you to now bring your fingertips slowly, breathing in to the pad of your thumb, squeezing in just gently, and then as you exhale, relax your whole body and opening up your hand. It's like opening up your heart. So John comes back to himself. And in the meeting, it is so beautiful. He engages his whole team. It is so phenomenal to watch. Everyone is there. Everyone is with him, including his boss. He didn't leave him out. John returned to himself. And in doing so, he stopped himself from creating greater harm between him and his boss. So beautiful. Now, can you imagine if his boss had done the same thing? Can you imagine what it would have done for John? Right? That's the power of return. What is one return, one little one even, that you could do? Just one. Don't tell me, just think about it. When I shared that story about myself and that young man in that cramped room at the beginning, I share it with you because my children are right now the same ages that we were in that room, just about. He was a few years older. And I think about them, and I think about your children, and I think about all of us, and I don't want any of us to ever believe that taking is easier than returning. When we come back to ourselves and we get to the sense of harmony, we are less likely to create harm. Again, that means there is more joy to give. How cool is that, right? It doesn't matter if you're in a studio or a daycare or boardroom, or if you're here. Return is harm prevention. It is this beautiful pause that we take before we do an action that hurts. It's this capacity to take that breath so that you don't use words that bite. The power of return is that it has this way of steadying us when harm is unfolding. And it invites us, it gives us the courage, the wings that we need to repair when harm has been done. If we practiced it, if we truly practiced it, at work, at home, in love, in leadership, holy moly, we would leave people, places, we'd leave conversations better than we found them. I love that for us. I absolutely do. Every time we come back to ourselves, we return to ourselves to get ourselves into this state of harmony, we give this world one less reason to heal. And that's the world I want to continue to build with you, like a child handing back a toy with wide open arms and a big toothy grin, because I got one of those.